Princess Era stood in the starstone hall of her palace. Silver pillars reached high above her, but no shine matched the resolve in her clear eyes. Nobles gathered to hear an ordinary betrothal decree. Instead, the young heir spoke in a calm voice. "I will marry a human." Shock rippled through silk robes and jeweled rings. Fans stopped, advisors gulped, and even King Orion Vieira's father stared as though a moon had slipped from orbit. Whispers rose until the king lifted a hand for silence. Unease lingered. In every corner of the hall, after the crowd dispersed, Ara met her father in the private solar garden, where glowing vines wrapped warm stone benches. "Why risk tradition?" the king asked. "Because tradition traps us," Ara replied. "Humans change quickly, forgive mistakes, and grow stronger together. Our empire needs that spirit." The king studied his daughter, then nodded slowly. "Choose with care," he said. Half a galaxy away, engineer Eric Carter was repairing a solar array on the Luna Vista colony when a royal shuttle docked beside the platform. An armored envoy stepped out, requested him by name, and handed him a crystal cube. Inside appeared a hala of Princess Era. "Greetings, Eric Carter," the projection said. "Your work on adaptive power cells inspired me. I wish to meet the mind behind those ideas." That night, Eric weighed reasons to stay steady. Job, familiar moon-and reasons, to-go curiosity, and a chance to see wonders no Earth sky could show. Curiosity won. He requested leave and boarded the envoy ship. The royal cruiser crossed nebula lanes in 9 standard days. Crew members treated him politely but warily. None had shared meals with a human before. Eric responded with patience, fixing a squeaking hatch and explaining Earth's humor. By the 5th day, officers laughed at his stories about traffic jams and low-gravity elevators. On the 6th night, Ada called him via Hala. They spoke of rain, of glow gardens, and of why small inventions matter. When the call ended, Eric stared at the blank screen, surprised by the warmth in her voice. CYG&A Ria filled the viewport on day 9, wide seas and lavender clouds.
Oh.
Orbital rings shimmered with gardens and markets. At the capital port, harp-like chimes greeted arrivals. Eric crossed a glass bridge toward the palace. Balconies above teemed with spectators. He felt every eye on his earth boots. Era waited at the bridge's end in a plain white cloak, a grease mark on one sleeve hinting at handiwork. She offered her arm, the Signarian greeting among equals. Eric linked arms. Surprised murmurs followed. Them, inside the grand atrium, reporters and nobles pressed forward. Era lifted her voice. "Citizens of Signaria, this is Eric Carter of Earth, my guest and partner in learning." Some faces softened, others hardened. An aide guided Eric to a guest suite. Windows framed twin moons painting the sky rose and gold. He set his bag down and exhaled. "So this is real," he whispered. On a datapad lay notes about local customs. Tomorrow, he would greet council members who believed humans too fragile for royal blood. The thought tightened his chest, yet he remembered Ara's vow and her trust. Observe, learn, adapt. The same method he used on circuits would guide him now. That afternoon, palace corridors buzzed. Ministers argued that a human could never master ritual etiquette. Young cadets secretly cheered the boldness of their princess. In shaded alcoves, elders whispered fear of scandal, yet none doubted Ara's resolve after seeing the fire in her. Eyes. A messenger needle ship soon launched toward Luna Vista, carrying the royal invitation. Its blue ion trail streaked across Signaria's dawn, proof that history had already left the station. On the voyage, Eric kept notes on his old tablet. He discovered crew used low musical tones to steady volatile fuel, and their main meals blended, sweet and spicy until his tongue tingled. Evenings filled with small exchanges. He taught a card game. They taught him glowing dice customs. Nervous formality slowly melted into curious friendship. One night, Navigator Liva asked why humans tell stories about monsters. Eric said, "Maybe so we're less scared when we finally meet the dark." Liva tapped that answer into her log, calling it classic human optimism. Later, in his palace suite, Eric stepped onto the balcony. Cool air smelled of citrus metal. City lights flowed below like rivers of fireflies. He placed a photo of his parents beside a fresh star orchid on the bedside shelf, picking the mix of familiar and alien. He drafted a brief message to Luna Vista. Arrived safely. Planet and Princess Extraordinary. More soon. Someone back. Home would shake their head at the understatement. Slipping into bed, he watched twin moons climb the window frame, two different worlds sharing one sky. Challenges waited with sunrise, but promise itself was a gentle blanket, and tonight that was enough. Morning light streamed through Signaria's crystal windows, washing the palace halls in soft violet. Eric woke before the first chime, rehearsing the greeting Princess Era had taught him, hands clasped. Single nod, and the word Solari, spoken with steady warmth. An attendant arrived with breakfast balanced on a silver tray. The young page bowed so low his silver hair brushed the floor. Eric returned the gesture a little too quickly and nearly lost his footing, but his shy grin coaxed a quiet laugh from the boy. Small goodwill rippled outward. Even the cold marble floor seemed kinder after that exchange. Chief Protocol Officer Rena met him at the door, her uniform stitched with tiny medals that glowed like dawn fireflies. She guided him through galleries lined with murals of royal ancestors, each figure immortalized in swirling glass. Rena's lesson moved from posture to phrasing, then to the subtle tilt of the head that signaled gratitude. By the time they reached the council chamber, Eric's nerves hummed louder than the palace ventilators. Inside, nobles formed a crescent of color, robes flowing in waves of cerulean and gold. King Orion Vi welcomed him in calm tones. Eric answered. With his practiced greeting, finishing on Solari, surprise danced across many faces. A few elders hid grudging respect behind stiff smiles. Formalities ended quickly, but the council's low conversation followed him and Era all the way to the exit like curious birds. Era whisked Eric onto a sky bridge arcing above layered gardens. Floating lily discs drifted below, filtering air for bustling streets. Children hopped from disc to disc, laughter echoing upward like bells. Ara explained how every tier combined beauty with purpose, sending fresh oxygen down to lower districts. Eric asked about soil microbes and moisture sensors. Each question lit her features with pride. At a fruit stall, an elderly vendor pressed a slice of sun pear into Eric's hand. Juice dripped down his wrist, tart and bright. He answered the vendor's bow with Earth's traditional high five, sparking startled giggles from onlookers. Curiosity, he noticed, always spread faster than fear, deeper in the artisan quarter. Glassblowers coaxed molten streams into spirals that cooled mid-air. Eric spotted a furnace pipe rattling loose, venting steam dangerously close to a crowd. With quick permission, he knelt, tightened the seam with a clamp from his toolkit, and added a strip of quickset sealant. The pipe hissed, then stilled. Applause broke out. One artisan tapped his chest twice, the sign of deep thanks. Era watched admiration bloom across nearby faces. No speech could have matched the silent proof of a mended furnace. Whispers would carry the story through palace halls by nightfall. As lavender dusk bled into brilliant pink, palace heralds guided them to the Hall of 10,000 Lights. Hovering orbs projected living myths, dragons soaring, heroes forging star-steel swords while tables fanned out around a fountain of liquid light. Eric's seat, bowled beside Era's, hushed talk the instant he sat. Across the table lounged Lord Valen, Era's distant cousin known for cunning. His eyes measured Eric like a jeweler studying a flawed gem. Servants rolled in the second course, translucent cups releasing blue vapor. Valen lifted his and spoke for the hall. Our Skyfire do test courage. May our guests savor it. Several nobles leaned forward, ready for human collapse. Eric examined the brew, recalling chemical safety lessons. With a discreet tap on his wristband, he shone a diagnostic beam through the cup, gauging volatile sugars and heat gradients. Safe in small amounts. He took a modest sip and let the vapor escape in slow breaths, showing calm control. Valen's smile faltered when Eric placed the cup back unstained. Flavorful, Eric said, voice steady, murmurs rippled. Some carried surprise, others reluctant approval. Era's eyes gleamed. the private signal of shared victory. The feast rolled on with spiced grain parcels and stories of ancient campaigns. Suddenly Captain Joran, a decorated fleet officer, long touted as a proper royal match, slammed his metal gauntlet onto the table. "Tradition requires any claimant to defend honor with steel," he declared. The floating lights dimmed, casting sharp shadows. Ara stiffened, guards ready to intervene. Eric rose slowly, palms open. "I honor your code," he said, "but battle tonight would dull celebration. Perhaps we test skill another way." He picked 2 slim spoons, balanced them upright on the table's edge, and tapped one. Resonance made both vibrate together. "Even separate pieces can find harmony," he added, meeting Joran's glare. After a tense beat, the captain let out a reluctant chuckle and sat, tension side out. Of the room like steam leaving a pipe, desert followed munchal pastry that shattered into sweet stardust. Nobles turned curious, asking Eric about earth storms and why humans dance in the rain instead of hiding indoors. He described thunder rolling across prairies, lightning painting clouds white. His words drew listeners into scenes none of them had lived, yet now felt, through imagination. Ara watched suspicion soften to wonder. Even stern Counselor Adra dabbed amusement from a wrinkled eye. After the hall emptied, Ara led Eric along lantern-lit ramparts. Cool sea air carried the scent of sky orchids and salt. She thanked him for turning pride into laughter. Eric shrugged, saying every system engine or society thrives on small acts of maintenance. They paused where ocean met night in a silver line. A shooting star traced a bright arc overhead. Ura confessed moments of doubt about her vows. Wait, but the day's event showed cracks forming in old stone. Eric answered that change starts the way dawn slips into darkness, quiet but unstoppable. Together they watched twin moons rise, their reflections twinned on rippling water. In his suite, Eric recorded a voice log. First full day. Greeted council, patched a furnace, survived sky fire dew, avoided a duel with spoons. Success rating. High, risk rating, rising. He set the pad beside a fresh star orchid and looked through the glass wall at moons drifting apart, each casting its own glow. Homesickness fluttered faintly, but purpose filled most corners of his heart now. Tomorrow, rumors promised formal trials set by the council and more hidden sabotage. He breathed deep, feeling the quiet pulse of the palace around him. Curiosity, respect, and a trusty toolkit, those would be his weapons. Wrapping the blanket around his shoulders, he whispered Solari to the room and let sleep come on wings of distant earth thunder he carried in memory. First light slipped through the palace skylights, painting slow gold stripes across Eric's room. He sat on the edge of the bed, lacing his boots and counting quiet heartbeats. Outside, bells rang 3 short notes, the signal that the council's ancient trials would begin at sunrise. He had studied the rules the night before, 6 tasks set to test mind, heart, and steady hands, all completed in the order set by the elders. Nowhere did the rules promise fairness. A soft knock sounded. Princess Ara entered, wearing a plain gray tunic instead of royal silk. Her cloak pockets bulged with small tools, odd screws, and folded sheets of data paper. Royal observers cannot guide a challenger, she whispered, but a friend can offer breakfast. From her sleeve, she pulled 2 honey cakes wrapped in leaf skins. Eric took one, its warmth soothing his nerves. They ate in calm silence, trading quiet smiles until the bells rang again. The trial courtyard lay behind the palace, but felt older than the whole city. Stone slabs held carvings of long-dead heroes, their deeds twisted by time into legend. 6 arches formed a rough circle. Under each arch waited a different counselor and a crowd of nobles eager for spectacle. Eric crossed the threshold alone, feeling every eye on the human in common work clothes. Counselor Adra stepped forward first, her silver staff tapping the ground with slow, sure beats. "Trial of logic," she said. A marble table rose from the floor, bearing a game board etched with stars. Crystal pieces glowed faint blue. Eric had studied Signarian star path puzzles during the voyage, yet the pattern before him felt new, lines curling into a tangled knot. Adra smiled, as if daring him to fail. He knelt, breathing steady, and let fingers trace the board's grooves. Instead of attacking the problem head-on, he slid one piece off the board and set it above a blank space, creating room where none existed. A ripple of chatter spread through the watchers. Eric then shifted other crystals until light flowed from star to star in an unbroken loop. Adra struck her staff once. Puzzle solved. Next trial. Lord Valen strode beneath the second arch, cloak fluttering like a proud banner. Trial of balance, he declared. Servants rolled out a narrow beam suspended over a shallow pool of colored oil. At the beam's center rested a metal sphere the size of a melon. Carry it across without spilling a drop, Valen ordered. Eyes gleaming. Oil fumes stung Eric's nose as he stepped onto the beam. The wood flexed under his weight. He knelt, wedged the sphere under one arm, and began a slow sidestep. Halfway across, hidden gears clicked. The beam tilted 5 degrees. Gasps rose. Eric bent his knees, lowering his center of gravity the way lunar workers walked on narrow girders. He slid the last 2 meters, foot by foot, and hopped a safe stone. Only one drop broke the surface. Valen frowned but nodded, accepted. Arch 3 waited in quiet shadow. Captain Joran stood there, armor polished brighter than sunrise. Trial of courage, he said, handing Eric a small pulse blade. Defend yourself. Without warning, 2 sparring drones leaped from hidden panels, blades flashing. Eric ducked, remembering lessons from lunar security drills. Keep moving. Watch for patterns. The drones stabbed in perfect rhythm, but perfection can be read like a song. Eric timed a jump, letting both machines collide, then slammed his blade against their joint circuits. Sparks hissed. Drones fell still. Applause broke out from young cadets watching above. Joran's hard grin softened, just for a breath. Counselor Rena herself presided at Arch 4. Trial of empathy, she said, voice gentle. Help another succeed. A caretaker let out a shy child no older than 8, eyes wide as planets. The child carried a tangled string of gemstone beads. Rena explained the beads must be sorted by color into a pattern shown only to the child. Eric knelt and spoke in low, steady words, asking the child to teach him the colors first. Together they sang a counting rhyme, red to violet. Bit by bit, the child relaxed, guiding Eric's hands until the pattern matched. Rena touched the child's shoulder with pride, then turned to the council. Empathy proven and shared. Dat. The 5th Arch Elder Artificer Kilos rolled up oily sleeves. Trial of craft, he boomed, slamming a broken servo motor onto a bench. Repair within 1 hour using these. He dropped a pouch of mismatched part springs, bolts even. A bent gear. Eric smiled. Puzzles, he could sense through fingertips. He cleaned the motor's grit with cloth, placed a cracked bearing with a smooth marble bead, and soldered wires using a heated chisel. The motor whirred to life before half the hour passed. Kilos raised thick eyebrows. The motor runs smoother than before. Impressive. Only the 6th arch remained, yet no counselor stood beneath it. Space rippled, and a holoscreen flickered on, displaying King Orion himself from the royal balcony. Final trial, judgment of truth, he proclaimed. Answer one question with complete honesty. The courtyard fell silent. Orion leaned forward. Eric Carter, why do you wish to stand beside my daughter? Pressure crushed Eric's chest for a moment. He looked at Era standing near the garden gate, her eyes bright, hands clasped so tight they trembled. He breathed once. Because she believes in better futures, he said, voice carrying across stone and sky. She looks at fear and chooses hope. Standing beside that choice makes me better. Together we can help both our peoples grow. The king studied him, then nodded once. Truth accepted. Roars of mixed cheers and grumbles rang from the crowd. Trials complete. Yet even as relief washed over Eric, danger stirred. A masked servant near the far wall slipped a small device under a power conduit, then melted into the throng. Princess. Era spotted the motion too late. Sparks burst, sending a surge racing toward the courtyard's light rigs. Cables snapped, and a heavy crystal lamp plummeted straight toward Counselor Adra. Instinct cut thought. Eric dashed, shoving Adra clear. The lamp crashed beside him, shards exploding across stone. He felt a sharp sting on his forearm glass, slicing skin, but pain registered only after the danger passed. Silence followed, broken by Adra's shaky breath and Era's cry. Guards raced to secure the area. Blood trickled down Eric's sleeve as he stood, unsteady yet upright. Adra touched the cut, then raised his hand high. "Today's trial's finished," she announced, voice strong. No, they merely proved what action just displayed. Nobles bowed, some deeply, some with stiff necks still bound by old pride. King Orion's voice thundered from the balcony. "Let the record show that Eric Carter of Earth completed the 6 trials and saved a counselor in the same hour." Healers hurried forward, but Era reached Eric first, pressing a linen strip to the cut. "Still think you were only an engineer?" she murmured. Eric managed a grin. "Engineer, puzzle solver, accidental bodyguard titles keep multiplying." Around them the courtyard buzzed with fresh loyalty and whispered fear, for sabotage meant deeper plots yet to surface. Guards sealed exits, investigators fanned out. But in that swirl of voices, one truth stood, bright as morning trust forged under trials is not easily broken. As twin suns slid toward afternoon, their light caught the shard scar on Eric's arm, a new mark of belonging on foreign skin. Twilight rested over Signaria when the palace courtyards finally emptied of curious nobles and restless guards. Rumor of sabotage clung to the walls like mist, yet the royal household hurried on, as if calm could be willed into existence. The strategy tower, King Orion gathered his chiefs around a holomap. Every floating marker showed Signarian patrols, sliding along safe borders, until a red flare blinked on the rim. That flare carried the seal of a frontier station named Dawnspire, and it pulsed with the silent code for emergency interception. Princess Ara arrived first, her tunic still dusty from the trial's courtyard. Eric limped in moments later, sleeve hastily stitched over the fresh cut on his arm. Captain Jorin, armor now traded for pilot leathers, saluted both. "Reports say unknown ships breached our outer grid 20 minutes ago," he said, pointing to the red flare. "Scout sensors paint a signature that matches the Neurosan Empire." A hush fell. Neurosa, the old rival, had waited years for Signaria to stumble. Eric studied the rotating holomap. That vector curves wide before swinging back toward the capital, he noted. "They're trying to hide behind the moons, then strike once panic sets in." A few generals muttered that humans could not read fleet tactics, but Ara's steady nod kept them silent. She tapped to control, magnifying the ringed world that orbited just beyond. "We can place forward scouts here, here, and here," she said, marking 3 hidden crater bays. "Yet we need rapid analysis of Neurosan hull metal to tune shield." Frequency. She looked to Eric. "Can you adapt our shield grid on the fly?" He considered options. "If I link our shield nodes through a rotating algorithm, something Earth miners use to deflect? Micrometeors? The frequency will shift every second. Neurosan beams will search for a lock and waste energy." Kilos the Artificer frowned. "Rotating frequency? Unheard of," Eric shrugged. "Humans call it wobble defense. Simple, but effective." King Orion turned to his counselors. "Simple solutions are sometimes the sharpest blades." Within the hour, Era and Eric boarded the swift scout ship Starlark. Its hull shimmered dark, blue small enough to slip past sensor nets. Jorin joined his combat advisor along with navigator Liva and a trio of drone techs. The Starlark shot from a hidden ramp and rocketed toward the outer moons. Behind them, palace towers shrank into lines of silver. Ahead, the starfield widened, peppered with unknown dangers. Inside the cramped cabin, Eric hunched over a diagnostic panel. Glowing bars tracked the shield frequency, shifting in smooth waves based on the new wobble code. Liva piloted through. "Ice debris," her calm voice calling each turn. Ara watched sensor feeds, noting the faint blips of Neurosan patrol drones. They flew dark engines at minimum, until the largest Moona-rusty sphere named Ashna filled the screen. Ridges on Ashna's surface hid magnetic anomalies perfect for masking emissions. Liva settled Starlark into a crater rim. The crew slipped into stealth suits and crept onto the dusty surface. No atmosphere, here only silence and stars. Eric and Era moved ahead together, following a handheld tracer tuned to Narazan metal signatures. Soon, in the shadow of a boulder, they found a drone wreck half buried. Its hull plating glinted black-green. Era knelt, prying off a shard while Eric scanned alloy composition. Numbers streamed onto his visor. High titanium nickel blend. Standard Narosan, but with a twist energy coatings meant to disrupt older shield grids. Good news.
Eric said, "Through comes."
Our wobble pattern will scramble this coating. Bad news, these drones carry beacon pods. They're mapping our moon network right now. Joran's voice crackled. Then we silenced the beacons. Silently, the team planted pulse mines at 3 wreck sites, set to detonate on remote command. Eric and Era hurried back to Starlark. Suits dusted red dot once aboard. Liva pushed engines to full. Narosan patrol ships appeared on sensors, sweeping. The crater they'd just left, Ara gave the command. Joran thumbed the detonator. Brilliant flashes bloomed across Asia's surface, erasing beacon signals and fiery arcs. Patrols jerked off course, confused. Starlark darted behind a ridge and slingshot around the moon, racing for space between ring debris where enemy scanners faltered as they cleared Ashna's shadow. The main Narazan strike fleet came into view, a wedge formation of 6 cruisers with escort corvettes. Their prows glowed magma red, charging particle lances. Eric gulped. Even wobble shields might crack under sustained fire. "We just need time," he muttered. Ara activated a secure beam to the capital. "Father, enemy numbers confirmed. Begin." Shield rotation protocol Alpha Earth. Back in the strategy tower, technicians linked global nodes, frequencies shifting like tide. Cities below glimmered inside new armor. Naras and commanders soon realized their beams scattered uselessly across Signaria's atmosphere. Frustration drove them to close distance, abandoning stealth for raw power. That choice exposed them. Signarian defense batteries lit the sky, guided by Eric's uploaded calibration. Plasma arcs met Narosan holes, blooming blue shards. Escort corvettes fell in minutes, yet the cruisers pressed on. Angling toward Dawnspire, stationed first bastion before the capital, Era addressed Starlark's crew. "We need to remove the cruiser flagship, cut the head, and the rest will retreat." Joran grinned, hunger for daring action finally satisfied. "We have 4 drone pods loaded with seismic charges," he said. Eric nodded, recalling Earth's demolition tactics in asteroid mines. "Detonate charges along that cruiser's ion wake," he proposed. "The shock will feed back into their vent stacks." Liva weaved through laser torrents, Starlark small, enough to skim under cruiser shields. The drone techs launched pods. Ara guided them with tight beams of light. Eric overrode pod protocols on his console, setting staggered bursts. The flagship's massive hull loomed, lights flickering across gun ports. One direct hit, and Starlark would vanish, yet the small ship flew steady. First pod clamped onto an exhaust fin. Second slid beneath the vent stack. Alarms blared on the cruiser too late. Eric hit execute. Silence. Then white bursts rippled along the spine of the giant. Ship reactors hiccuped. Power died in chunks, and the cruiser began listing, engines flaring unevenly. Seeing their leader crippled, the remaining Narosan ships broke formation, treat lights blinking. Cheers filled Starlark, echoed across palace comes. On the capital's high towers, citizens watched enemy fire fade and erupted in applause. In the scout ship's cabin, relief mingled with fatigue. Joran clapped Eric's shoulder so hard it stung. "Never saw shields dance like that," he said, grinning ear to ear. Ara met Eric's eyes. Pride and quiet gratitude shone brighter than battle lights. Starlark docked at Dawnspire to resupply. Engineers there inspected wobble shield logs, eyes widening at the elegant simplicity. One compared it to reinventing the wheel into a circle that rolls faster. While repairs ran, Era and Eric walked the station's observation deck. Stars outside pulsed harmlessly now. Today proved our cultures together are stronger than alone, Era said, voice low, and also that enemies inside our walls may aid enemies beyond. Her thought turned to the sabotage during the trials. Eric leaned against the railing. Someone wants to make you doubt your choice, he said. They failed in the courtyard and in space, but they will try again. Era nodded. Then we stay ready. Alerts sounded again, but restful this time. Palace summons for a debrief and royal commendation ceremony. Starlark powered up once more, sleek hull reflecting newborn hope. Eric glanced at the now sealed cut on his arm, a reminder that dangers come from falling lamps as much as enemy cruisers, yet facing both with friends felt less daunting. The ship lifted into starlight, wings cutting through quiet dark. Below, Signaria's seas glimmered serene under twin moons, unaware of how close war had drifted. Above, the human engineer and the alien princess prepared to land as heroes and, unknowingly, targets for deeper plots that hid beneath polished smiles and palace corridors. But tonight, triumph tasted sweet, and the promise of shared tomorrow burned like a guiding star across both their hearts. Dawn painted soft peach across palace spires, yet celebration banners already flashed bright gold, drifting over courtyards still ringing from last night's victory bells. Citizens poured through flower-lined streets to honor everyone who had saved Signaria. Some carried ribbons cut into twin colors: blue for the princess, green for the human guests. Drums echoed like distant thunder, but an undercurrent of tension moved just as steady. Because no one knew who had planted the sabotaged lamp, or why palace security had found 3 more hidden devices during the night. Inside the marble strategy chamber, King Orion met with his inner council. Reports scrolled above the table, listing unexploded charges and possible suspects. Lord Valen arrived late, cloak trailing expensive red silk, eyes glittering unreadable. Captain Joran stood alert beside Princess Ara, while Eric waited half a step behind, still wearing the patched sleeve over yesterday's wound. Some nobles whispered that an outsider should not attend security briefings, yet no one could deny the shield code that had saved the capital. Orion's deep voice silenced argument. Our people will gather in the Victory Plaza at midday, he said. We must show unity, not fear. Traitors feed on fear. After the meeting, Era guided Eric through sunlit colonnades toward the Comes Tower, where they would record a brief greeting for outlying provinces. As they walked, she noticed him flex his bandaged arm. Still hurts? She asked. He shrugged. Only when I breathe, he joked, then softened his grin. I'm more worried about whoever keeps slipping bombs into the palace. Era nodded, face serious. Loyalty is a strong word that some prefer to twist. Today we untwist it. Midday heat shimmered above the Grand Avenue when the parade began. Floating platforms glided low so children could wave at decorated soldiers. Music from crystal horns blended with cheers. Eric stood beside Era on the leading dais shaped like a silver petal. His earth heartbeat rose when he saw thousands of unfamiliar faces, some hopeful, some cautious. He scanned rooftops the way lunar safety drills had taught him, half enjoying the pageantry, half mapping danger zones inside his mind. Halfway down the avenue, Eric's wrist scanner pinged a faint spy, an unstable power source pulsing near. The crowd railing, he followed the signal with careful eyes. A palace steward in plain gray leaned over a planter, adjusting a hidden panel. Moments later, the steward slipped into the throng, leaving behind a metal box no bigger than a fist. Eric's stomach tightened. He whispered through his throat mic, "Unidentified device at Sector 3, left side planter base." Parade noise was too loud, only Era heard. She kept waving, mask calm, while Eric stepped off the dais as if to greet spectators. He pushed through layers of watchers, murmuring apologies until he knelt by the planter. The box hummed under his fingers. Simple timed charge, he guessed. designed for small radius but deadly among packed civilians. He popped the lid with a multi-tool, revealing a circuit of red threads looping toward a ready light. There was no time to fetch the bomb squad. Eric tightened his mind on a basic miner's trick. Cut power and confuse the timer. He pulled one copper pin, then snapped a thin battery wire. The ready light dimmed to black. Breath he did not know. He held slipped out between his teeth. A shout drew his gaze. The gray-cloaked steward had noticed the failed plot and now sprinted toward an alley. Eric jumped the railing and chased, boots striking echo against stone. Citizens parted, surprised. Joran, seeing movement from the dais, vaulted down and joined pursuit. 2 guards followed. The steward ducked under archways, dropped smoke pellets. But Eric's years working in dusty lunar tunnels made low visibility less frightening. He followed footfalls, feeling air currents. A final turn trapped the steward against a locked gate. Joran's sword blocked escape. Guards clasped the traitor's wrists. Back at the plaza, a temporary command tent formed, screens humming. Steward, eyes wild, spat words about a pure throne and human weakness. Under questioning, he revealed a gold crest sewn inside his cloak, the snake's sigil of House Valen. Gasps rippled through officers. The counselor Adra summoned 2. Witness demanded clarity. "Did Lord Valen fund you?" she asked. The steward glared silent, but records on his datapad showed payments routed from a shell account traced to the cousin's estate. Evidence felt heavy as iron. Late afternoon saw the High Council convene in an emergency session beneath the opal dome. Marble benches, normally spaced with calm elegance, now bristled with tension. Lord Valen stood before them, face pale yet chin high. He denied ordering harm, yet conceded that certain patriots might misinterpret his private doubts about the human fiancé. Orion listened, expression carved from granite. Then he called Eric to speak. Hundreds of noble eyes fixed on the human in plain jacket. Eric did not speak of sabotage details. Investigators had done that. Instead, he talked about the little boy now safe because the bomb never burned. About palace artisans whose furnace he had fixed, and about defense crews who had laughed at his earth jokes while planning a shield that saved towns they would never see. "This is what alliance means," he said, voice steady. "Not mixing bloodlines or trading titles, but sharing hands to lift bigger burdens." His simple words echoed under the dome's curved stone landing. Gently on ears grown tired of polished rhetoric, Counselor Rena rose first. "I vote confidence in Princess Ara's choice," she declared. One by one counselors followed. Even Captain Joran, once rival, placed his armored fist over his heart and spoke I. When only Lord Valen remained, silence pressed. Finally, he gave a curt bow, accepting verdict. Guards escorted him out, not as prisoner yet formal charges awaited, but stripped of council privileges. Evening light now filled Victory Plaza with a softer gold. Word of the council's decision spread faster than any banner could wave. Citizens gathered again, this time for an impromptu address. Ara stepped forward in royal blue, but added a plain gray scarf, the same color as ordinary workers. Her shoulders, Eric stood beside her, sleeve still patched, cut visible as faint pink beneath fresh bandage. Together, they spoke of vigilance, of rebuilding trust, of honoring those who stayed brave without needing medals. Cheers answered louder than morning drums. Artisans threw petals that rained down like slow snowfall. Children waved ribbons of mixed colors that blended into one shimmering green-blue band. Eric felt weight lift from his chest as he realized many in the crowd no longer looked at him with cautious wonder but with open respect. He bowed, palm to heart, Earth style. The plaza returned the bow as a single wave. Under the first star of night, private garden lamps flickered on. Era and Eric walked along the quiet path of perfume trees. Moonlight kissed silver leaves. Era stopped at a small bridge over running water. "You nearly died again," she said softly, not scolding, just stating a fact that scared her. Eric leaned on the railing, listening to stream gurgle. "Worth it," he answered. "Every life saved is weight measured against fear. I pick. That trade any hour? She placed a hand over his bandage. Tomorrow, the court will announce our official betrothal. Eric's breath caught. Anxiety and happiness tangled inside him. Are they truly ready? He asked. Era tipped her head. Thoughtful. They are learning. Loyalty grows like these trees, slow at first, but deep. Tonight they saw another ring added to the trunk. She stepped closer, voice gentle but firm. And tomorrow we carve our initials in that wood. Distant celebration flares sparkled. Above city roofs, painting clouds pink and green, Eric watched reflections dance in Era's eyes. Despite pain in his arm and dust on his boots, he felt grounded, as if some inner compass pointed finally to true north. Then let's keep planting, he said. They walked on, shoulders touching lightly, under lanterns that hummed soft songs of wind and water. Beyond palace walls, investigators pursued the final threads of conspiracy, and fleets reshuffled among. Wary stars, but for one quiet stretch of garden path, two people from distant worlds traced the first steps of a shared future. Morning dawned clear and bright over Signaria, the skies washed clean after a night of fireworks and song. Today the royal court would seal the betrothal between Princess Era and Eric Carter, the human who had crossed stars to stand beside her. The city woke early. Shopkeepers hung fresh garlands of blue-green petals, and children chalked messages of unity on white stone plazas. Above them, palace bells rang a new tune that blended an earth melody with an ancient Signarian march. The breezes felt as if they carried promise. Inside the palace, sunlight filtered through crystal ceilings, casting rainbow circles on polished floors. In the eastern vestibule, Era stood before three handmaidens while they draped her in a cloak of soft silver cloth. The cloak shimmered like moonlit water and fell simply, with no heavy jewels. She had chosen it to honor her people's tradition of grace without pride. Across the hall, Eric adjusted his neat jacket, fingers lingering on a tiny pin shaped like a gear wand of the first Signarian gifts he had ever fixed. The pin kept a secret spring, still ticking quietly, reminding him that small parts make the whole strong talk. Captain Joran arrived to escort them to final council assembly. Once a challenger, he now bowed with genuine respect. All clear, he reported, helm tucked under one arm. No further signs of trouble. Eric thanked him, still wary but relieved. Joran then returned to parade command. Nearby, Artificer Kilos slipped Eric a small toolkit wrapped in ribbon. For the road ahead, Kilos said gruffly. Marriage is continuous repair. Eric laughed and promised to use it well. The great amphitheater opened its curved arms to 50,000 citizens. Tiers of white steps rose like petals around a central dais. Broad banners of both cultures fluttered together. No crest sat higher than the other. King Orion stood at the dais center, staff of polished meteoric iron in hand, while the High Council filled two wide arcs behind him. Sunlight glinted off their robes and the polished marble floor. Every seat overflowed, yet the amphitheater held a respectful hush as Era and Eric stepped into the arena. The path to the dais was called the Walk of Second Sunrise, taken only when two houses joined for the future of the planet. Era and Eric moved side by side, pace unhurried, allowing every witness to measure the weight of choice. Citizens laid small flower discs at their feet. Each disc dissolved into vivid light that drifted upward to form a soft, glowing trail. Anyone watching from orbit would have seen a ribbon of color curling up like a comet tail. Once they reached the dais, the king raised his staff. Today we honor action above blood, he declared, voice echoing like distant drums. Princess. Era of Signaria seeks union with Eric Carter of Earth. Trials tested mind, heart, and courage. Deeds on battlefield and in humble workshop proved worth beyond question. Applause rolled in warm waves through the stands. Counselor Adra stepped forward holding a small crystal plate. Upon it rested two slender rings woven from braided metal silver, taken from Signarian mines, and polished steel from lunar ore, fused by Kilos's careful hand. Era lifted one ring, slipped it onto Eric's finger, and spoke softly into the wide hush. Together we turn challenge into chance. Eric repeated the vow in return, easing the second ring onto her hand. Together we build bridges no fear can burn. Simple words, yet they carried across the amphitheater. Amplified by silent amplifiers placed under the floor stones, an ancient protocol called for an exchange of gifts. Era presented Eric with a seed captured in Ambra, rare tree, that grew only near the planet's magnetic poles. "Plant it where you dream of home," she said. Eric offered a small circular mirror etched with Earth's first radio message of peace. "Place it where sunrise meets your chambers," he replied. The gifts symbolized roots and reflection, growth and memory. As the king prepared to pronounce the engagement sealed, an urgent chime sounded from his wrist console. Palace Security Captain Laya, stationed at the western gate, appeared on a small hala. "Your Majesty," she reported quickly, "a final group loyal to Lord Valen attempted to storm the Cums Tower. We have detained them. No harm done." A murmur passed through the crowd. Orion thanked the captain and looked across thousands of faces. "Once again, courage and vigilance stand guard over our future," he said firmly. "May those who doubt see unity triumph." The ceremony resumed. Orion struck his staff thrice on the marble. "By witness of sun and star," he declared, "let this union guide our worlds." Cheers burst forth, loud enough to shake banners overhead. Confetti of tiny light flakes drifted from drones above, showering the dais in shimmering rain. Children released sky kites shaped like tiny shield generators. A playful nod to Eric's wobble defense that had saved the planet. Celebration flowed down avenues, till afternoon light turned streets amber. Public tables offered free sweet grain, cakes, and citrus water. Musicians played blended tunes, hand drums echoing beside soft strings. Artisans displayed holographic mosaics of the battles fought and the friendship forged. In many corners, someone had set up simple repair stalls inspired by Eric's first furnace fix, where citizens could bring broken items and learn how to mend them together. Inside the quieter palace gardens, far from music, Era led Eric to the ancient unity tree. Wide branches spread deep green leaves above a pool that mirrored twin moons even in daylight. "Couples plant their first shared seed here," she said. Kneeling, they carved a small pocket in the rich soil and placed the amber-caught seed inside. Eric's hands pressed earth around it, while Era poured a cup of spring water. Golden sap shimmered inside the amber, hinting at life ready to stir near evening. The new alliance charter was signed in the Royal Archive Chamber. Short document, surprisingly simple, written in 2 languages, but promising one thing: mutual aid in science, art, and defense, with open doors for learners of both worlds. Diplomats discussed the charter's broader reach, but Eric noticed how many officials paused over a closing line he had suggested. "Let curiosity be our compass." Pen strokes slowed there, as if each signer weighed the words carefully before tracing them. When dusk arrived, the Royal Air Garden hosted a final lantern flight. Eric and Ara stepped onto a glass balcony, each holding a lantern made of recycled drone parts. Inside each lantern glowed a gentle light powered by the rotating shield code, now symbolic of cooperation. They released the lanterns together, and hundreds followed, drifting upward until the night sky looked like a slow river of stars heading toward the universe's far edge at last. Lone on the balcony, they watched the lights fade. Gentle wind tugged strands of Ara's hair across her cheek. Eric brushed them back with shy fingers, then rested his wounded arm on the rail. The cut had healed enough to form a thin scar. Era traced it lightly. "Every story leaves marks," she whispered. "Scars remind us we faced the dark and chose the light." Eric turned his hand over, showing the braided ring. "And rings remind us the choice is daily," he said. Far below, city lights flickered. Somewhere children laughed, perhaps imitating shield drones in play. Stars blazed above, silent witnesses. Eric felt homesickness lift, replaced by something wider rooted in 2 worlds, yet free like those lanterns. Era placed her head on his shoulder. "Tomorrow begins training of mixed patrols," she said. "And after that, shared science workshops. Our calendars are about to overflow," he chuckled. "Good. Idle hands are dangerous, but diligent hearts are powerful," she added. They stood without talking for a long minute, listening to garden fountains and distant music. In that shared silence, the promise of bridges unbroken stretched bright inside them. Whatever challenges rose next from rival empires or hidden fears they would face as partners, guided by curiosity and trust. And somewhere in the palace, shade, a small amber seed, warmed inside cool soil, waiting for the right moment to sprout and spread roots toward both moons.